Well, I'm embarrassed to say
Nobody's name is on here.
it was a list of things that we needed.
Oh, gosh.
Plates and napkins. Hello, everyone. Good to have you with us on Red Barn Radio. I'm Brad Becker. Tonight we are in our 21st season of Red Barn Radio, and we welcome you to show number 780. Matt Koziol is a Nashville-based songwriter who has collaborated with a host of super pros in the industry, from Johan Paul White and Charlie Worsham to Abby Anderson and Bray Kennedy, among others. As his friends and collaborators say, Matt has a great knack for pulling remarkable stories from peers to use as inspiration in the songwriting process. Of his work, Matt says, "I make music to feel, to move, and to heal, not only people who hear it, but also myself. So while I have the chance to do it, I'll make sure every chord and every note has every last piece of me with it to give." Get ready for some beautiful songs and great conversation this evening on Red Barn Radio with Matt Koziol.
I'll always leave them chasing down a good time, trying to break even, just trying to get by. Plans I don't need on, never seen them work out. Find a little freedom, get a little high. Well, I would turn this train around if loving you was easy, knowing you would need me in the end. The only thing that's stopping me from rolling on forever, floating like a feather in the wind, is loving you, loving me again. Well, last night, baby, I was on a red eye, flying through the dark night, thinking of you again. Maybe one day, well, I got no doubt, figure our things out, never say goodbye. Well, I would turn this train around if loving you was easy, knowing you would need me in the end. The only thing that's stopping me from rolling on forever, floating like a feather in the wind, is loving you, loving me again. Well, I would turn this train around if loving you was easy, knowing you would need me in the end. The only thing that's stopping me from rolling on forever, floating like a feather in the wind, is loving you, loving me again. Is loving you, loving me again. Is loving you, loving me again. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to Roots Music Southern Style. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau, More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. LexArts, Lexington, Kentucky's premier cultural development, advocacy, and fundraising organization, working for the development of a strong and vibrant arts community as a means of enhancing the quality of life in Central Kentucky. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
Our guest this evening is Matt Koziol from Nashville, Tennessee, via Linden, New Jersey. As Matt says, his album Wild Horse, released a year-ish ago, is a collection of songs that tell the story of 10 years of his life. And it's a really captivating story, both for its honesty and also the really positive outcomes born out of hard work and also a lot of self-care. It's such a pleasure and honor to have Matt here to sing his songs and share about what's going on in his life. Welcome back, Matt Koziol.
It's out of my hands and in my blood. It's red in the ledger and I can't pay up. Blessed by the wicked, washed through the mud. I can't save my soul at the valley flood. I wear the cloth that I'm cut from. It's just a matter of time. There ain't no stopping the setting sun. Can't wash the sins from the hands that made me. Can't outrun what runs in the family. Cut me down, but the roots run deep. Die when they bury me. Yeah. The crown of my father's at my feet. Pray for mercy, but it won't come cheap. Yeah. I wear the cloth that I'm cut from. It's just a matter of time. There ain't no stopping the setting sun. Can't wash the sins from the hands that made me. Can't outrun who runs in the family. The cloth that I'm cut from. It's just a matter of time. There ain't no stopping the setting sun. Can't wash the sins from the hands that made me. Can't outrun what runs in the family. Runs in the family. That song's called Runs in the Family, and I'd had that come out probably, maybe about a year ago. It was used in a Walgreens commercial, and I wasn't singing, so it was just fun to hear it. But we used that, and I wrote that with some really good friends, my friend Maggie Rose and Oxley, and I'm going to sing you a song called Better Side of Lonely. That is one I hope will be on my next record. I'll tune it up and do it right. Thank you guys for having me. This is about being really good with being alone, which I've learned to love my space, and I've learned to love the quiet in it. And I don't know if I'm ready to give it quite up yet. So that's a Better Side of Lonely. Was kind of overrated, sleeping next to someone else. I spent too many weekends feeling sorry for myself. I've been drunk, I've been down, but I'm finally putting heartbreak on the shelf. I've been down for the count, I was mixed up running around, but now I walk slowly on my own feet. Somewhere on the better side of lonely. Though I don't need no one to hold me. Somewhere on the better side of lonely. Save a couple dollars, only buying food for one. I still do the dishes, but I do them when I want. Keep my shirts on the floor and my troubles at the door. And I walk slowly on my own feet. Somewhere on the better side of lonely. No, I don't need no one to hold me. Somewhere on the better side. Ask me how I'm doing all by myself. I'm doing real damn well, walking slowly on my own feet. Somewhere on the better side of lonely. No, I don't need no one to hold me. Somewhere on the better side. Somewhere on the bitter side of lonely. Somewhere on the bitter side of lonely. Thank you. It's fun just immediately talking right after. You know? Usually I could go run down, lean down, get a drink, and then not have any eyes watching what I'm going to talk about next. So this is it's a no pressure situation, guys, at all. I'm going to sing you a song I wrote with my buddy Steve Mokler and a guy named Andy Skibb. This might be one of my favorite songs I've written in a long time. It's a song called Last of the Old Dogs. And I have this common theme when I write songs. A lot of them are usually based around family and things I remember from New Jersey and just the life that I had there. But this one, my folks had a dog that we had probably since I was in the 7th grade, maybe 9th grade, that they had to put down this past year. And I'd gotten a dog over COVID for myself, and I went to bring that dog when I started touring a little more this year, or in the last year. And so they've had him as their adoptive son. My dad said it's like having a piece of me there, so I give him a pass. But they had one of their dogs pass away while my dog was there, and I was at this writing session. I said she was one of the last of the old dogs. We've had dogs my whole life, and she was one of the last of the old ones that I can remember. So we wrote the song called Last of the Old Dogs, and yeah, I hope you like it. Hop along to the front door when I get back home. Just not as fast as you used to. Got a little more white in your beard, a little more wrinkle in your ear, but it's still good for the soul to be here with you. We lost Cody back in '06. Bugsy in the 7th grade, and I've known you since I was just a kid, but the two of us are starting to show our age. So come on and sit with me a little while, put another log on the fire. One of these days, no, we won't get to. So how about tonight, it's just me and you. What am I gonna do when you're gone? You're the last of the old dogs. So all of my ex-girlfriends come and go, lick my face on graduation day. You sat in my suitcase as I packed up all my things. Then you howled while I pulled out of the driveway. So come on and sit with me a little while. I'll put another log on the fire. 'Cause one of these days, no, we won't get to. So how about tonight, it's just me and you. What am I gonna do when you're gone? You're the last of the old dogs. Ah, ooh. Ah, ooh. Thanks for keeping mom and dad company all these years, but it ain't gonna feel like home to me when you ain't here. So come on and sit with me a little while, put another log on the fire. 'Cause one of these days, no, we won't get to. So how about tonight, it's just me and you. What am I gonna do when you're gone? You're the last of the old dogs. Look at us, still hanging on. We're the last of the old dogs. Thank you. I tried singing that one in my house last night and I cried like a 2-year-old, so that one never gets easier. I'm going to continue on the family theme, I guess. This is a story I tell a lot. It's about my nephew. So I wrote a song called My Love from the Road, and I think this might be the next song that I put out as part of a deluxe of my album. And I've had this song written for a bunch of years. And it's another sad one, surprise, surprise, you know. But I wrote this one. It's not really sad. It's somebody called me Uncle Jesse once. They're like, "You're like the Uncle Jesse." And I was like, okay, I don't know how I should take that. But they said, you know, no, you're just that fun uncle. And I'm the uncle. Well, the real reason I say that is there's like the blessing and the curse of being the only person who moved away from your family. And when my brother called me and told me that I was having a nephew, I couldn't be more excited, but I was a little upset because I realized that I wouldn't be able to be there to see all of his life moments. So I see them on FaceTime and on Instagram and just photos sent to me. And I realized that I'm going to be the uncle who is 14 hours away. And the great part about that is I can go home and teach him things that I want to teach him without, getting in trouble from nobody, because I can just kind of hightail it back. So my sister-in-law doesn't get mad at me or nothing, right? And then, but the downside is I'm the uncle who lives 14 hours away, so he only gets to know me in small increments of me being home. So I wrote this song called My Love from the Road to teach him all the things I may not be able to be there to teach him. Yeah. Well, if you fall, just get back up. Don't ever say you're giving up. And try your best to learn from each mistake. Don't ever let a boy push you around. Just use your words and turn around. And if he hits you first, well, aim right for his face. Don't let a girl go break your heart. And if you're ever feeling lost, I want to tell you where to start. Just watch your daddy's hands to help you grow. Try to keep your mother so. Let your grandma hug you till you're old. And listen to your grandpa's favorite time. He's the one who gave me mine, and I hope one day you'll hear the song I wrote. Sending all my love from the road. Never be afraid to be yourself. Boy, they'll say you're something else. And travel all the places you never knew that you could go. So live out loud and live it wild. Live like you're going out of style. Born to Run's the only song you ever need to know. So watch your daddy's hands to help you grow. Try to keep your mother soul, and let your grandma hug you till you're old. Listen to your grandpa's favorite time. He's the one who gave me mine, and I hope one day you'll hear the song I wrote. Sending all my love from the road. When you find a love to call you wrong, do yourself some good, don't let it go. Well, take it from me, kid, I'm someone who would know. Just watch your daddy's hands to help you grow. Try to keep your mother's soul, and let your grandma hug you till you're old. Listen to your grandpa's favorite time. He's the one who gave me mine, and I hope one day you'll hear the song I wrote. Sending all my love from the road. Sending all my love from the road.
Wow, what a beautiful song, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. And how old is your nephew now?
He's 7. He has gone from like cute child to little brat really quick. It's like the switch was so fast, but he is still. It was really fun. One of the last times. It wasn't one of the last times, but it was a time where my mother called, and she was just kind of like in passing. She tells me updates about my nephew all the time, and she's like, today I was watching your nephew, and we were on Facebook watching videos of you. And I said, oh, that's great. And she goes, My Love from the Road was on. And she goes, Uncle Matt wrote that song for you. And he goes, he wrote it for me? And she was like, yeah, he wanted to write it for you. It's your song. And she goes, Matt, it was the sweetest thing. He looked at me, he's like, that's my song. And she was like, I think for the first time he understood that you wrote a song about him. And on the other end of the phone, I'm like, this blubbering mess of emotion. But it was cool to know that he finally gets it. And maybe he'll understand what I'm saying eventually, but it was cool to know that he finally understood that it was his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your brother your only sibling?
Yeah. We are 3 years apart, Jonathan. And it's funny, we couldn't be any more different, but I think when it comes down to just who we are, we're the same person. We can bicker and we can fight, but it's, he's my brother. And we have complete different interests. He never left the house, stayed on the computer. He works in IT. And I, grab bourbon bottles and play guitar for a living. So we were just completely different people. But he is probably the smarter half of who I am. I guess. I don't know. He'll appreciate me saying that. And he'll see that and he'll go, yeah, I am. That's right.
So he's an IT guy, but does he like music and like listening to?
He loves music. It's funny because when I was a kid, he had this great CD collection of like 90s alternative bands. And I listened to everything. My first love was Elvis. And then I listened to everything from Motown to like late 90s pop. I had the Backstreet Boys on CD. I'm not afraid to say it. It was just part of what I heard. And then, but for him, he had like Matchbox 20. He had Everclear. He had the Goo Goo Dolls. And I would hear these records coming from his room, and then he'd hear this stuff coming from my room, and he'd be like, no, just you come into here. And so we both have my father has both my parents have a huge love for music, but my brother is definitely one of those. Sometimes I forget that he listens to music, but I'll go home and he'd be like, hey, that song you put out, I like that one. And I go, thanks. So it just reminds me that he's listening, which is kind of cool. You
much more romantic than he is then, I guess.
I don't know. We never talked about girls, which was so weird.
I was more thinking about your general, life outlook and
maybe. That's the thing is I feel like me and my brother, when it comes to romance or things of that nature, we never spoke about it, and I never really saw him do anything. He knows that I write songs and the things that I write about, so it's easy to tell, how I feel about something, but I can never really tell my brother. And he has this very, silent but great emotional feeling to him. And I'll see it in other people's reactions to the things that he does, but I'll never really understand. We never talked about it, so it's just I only see it when he shows that kind of romance or love towards people, and he has it. I may have it a little more than he does, but that's just brotherly competition, I guess.
So you have, you have some nostalgia for the place where you grew up and and the people who raised you. Talk some about Linden, New Jersey, and because we don't know much about that.
Not many people know about Linden, New Jersey, which is fun. I grew up in the tri-state area, which is always a big surprise to people. They see me and they go, there's no way. And I go, no, I promise, I'm from there. And I grew up with a lot of them, 40,000 people in my hometown. I think there were 1,200 kids in my graduating class alone. It was a big city, and we had neighbors. I could hear their phones ring. That's how close we were. And but as big of a town as it is, and as much as I've traveled, it is as small as every other town in the world. We knew everybody that lived there. Everybody who had been there for generations. And as much as I said I didn't like it as a kid, and I was like, oh, it's just my hometown, like everybody does, when you leave it, you grow this great fondness for it. And I realized how hard people worked and how true they were and how traditions set so hard in their lifestyle. And it's a lot of what I talk about when I sing and a lot of what I try to live, because it's just, there's a lot of stuff you just can't run from. And I've had a lot of conversations with some good friends, and we go, sometimes it's just in your blood and your bones to be that way. And when you come across people who are just so, loose about where they're from, and they say, oh, I'm from everywhere. And I go, that's cool, but where are you from? There's a story behind where you're from. And talking about Linden has always been one of those things I never wanted to be ashamed about, because some people would say, well, I'm from New York. Well, I said, no, you're not. You're from New Jersey, and you're from Linden. Because it was easier to say you're from New York. It was just the nearest big city, and or the nearest biggest city, I guess. And for me, it was like, no, I never wanted to say I wasn't from there. There's just so much love and history and upbringing there that I can't, I'm never going to run away from it. It's the only reason I got to do what I do or be who I am. So, yeah, it's my whole family's there. My mother, father, grandmother. She's 93. She'll kill me for saying that on some sort of platform. My brother and my sister-in-law live in my father's old house, the one my grandfather built in 1960. My parents have been in the same house, I think, since 1984. There's a house built in 1907. All my family is from the area, whether it's been Newark or Elizabeth. And then I have extended family that all lives in New Jersey, and some, maybe one or two that moved away. I'm the only one that I know of, other than maybe two uncles who I've never met, who moved out of New Jersey. And my grandfather was a huge traveler. He would take my dad and my grandmother. He was an only child, but they would take cross-country drives, and he would want to see everything. And then I have uncles on another side of the family who are truck drivers. So we kind of, like everybody kind of understood that I could be in a car for 14 hours and it doesn't faze me. But it's fun when you're from New Jersey. It's a really weird, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of places, but like when we're home and we're in the state, you could be from a town over and no one's your friend. But if I see them out in mid-Tennessee and I go, oh, you're from New Jersey, and they go, yeah, and I say, what town? It doesn't matter. You're an instant family to me. So just because I guess we understand each other a little more, but I guess that's any place. I'm sure Kentucky does the same thing. You're instant family because you understand each other and you understand a culture, and everybody's there. They don't want to leave. I don't blame them, because it's a great place to be and grow up. I just needed something a little bit different, and I kind of got that wild hair from my grandfather of just getting in a car and going and seeing what else was there. Yeah.
Your the grandpa you mentioned, is that your dad's dad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my father's mother died when I was young, I think early 90s, and my mother's father died before I was even born. But my grandfather John was a veteran of World War II. Him and his brother, my Uncle Frank. I wear both of their dog tags every day, just because me and my father split them when they passed. So he has one of each of theirs, and I have one of the other. And he was always such a stern. He wasn't stern. He was very jolly and happy. But with me and my brother, he was our grandfather, and we knew him as Grandpa. He'd come in with a little cassette. He would come to babysit us, and he had a little cassette recorder and play polka music. And he would just sit there and watch TV while we played. And he was jolly to people that knew him. He would host all these parties and be the voice of a party, but we never saw that. And I learned a lot more about that as I got older. But he always had a story, and which was, that might be hitting me right now more than I think it should. We'd have Christmas dinner, and my Uncle Frank, my father's going to laugh at me for saying this, but my Uncle Frank would sit at the end of the table, and he would point at us like this. And he could speak 7 languages fluently. He could speak Latin fluently. And he would say grace in all 7 languages before we had dinner. My grandfather had every story from driving across the country to United States politics to the war, and he would tell us all the same. He said he lost all his hair because he fell off an elephant in Asia. I don't know. It was he had these crazy stories about life, and I would always pay attention. And my brother would listen, and we both would kind of laugh and chuckle. But as I got older, the nostalgia of their stories and them not being at the table meant more to me than kind of anything else.
Was your dad also a storyteller?
My dad is a historian above all historians. He is he's a huge Civil War buff. he will also like that I said that, because he truly is. But he was a politician for a long time. He's a graphic designer, but both my grandfather and my dad were in local public. They're both local public servants, so they were in politics. And local politics, it was always small, town stuff, but they were there for the betterment of people. And it was always something me and my brother appreciated. We never looked at it as like, oh, Dad's a politician. We just looked at it as like, oh, Dad's trying to do something great for the city, and Grandpa did something great for the city. But he's a storyteller. He likes to. I got my gift of gab. I could talk to a wall, and I got that from my father. My mother will say the same thing. My mother when she says something, she means it, and it's quick and precise. My dad will have a story for everything, and he'll make a new friend wherever he goes. And luckily, I got that trait. I can, it could be the guy at the gas station. I'm going to have a new best friend by the end of the time my pump's ready. So he got that from his father. That trait was passed down to me, which I'm thankful for.
And so your grandpa passed.
Mm-hmm. He passed when I was probably 18, 19, just out of high school. And it was, he was probably in his mid to late 80s or mid 80s. And, but it was just, when he had passed, we went into his house. We called it the museum, because he had all this stuff from him and my father's mother, my grandmother. They would travel across the country. They had hundreds of salt and pepper shakers. They had buttons from every political race that ever happened in the 1960s and 70s. They had pennants. They had stuff from our town. They had my grandfather, like I said, held parties in that basement. And all along the ceiling, he would have these beer cans and bottles that represented, different places that he went, and all these, we called them tchotchkes. That was just our word for it. But it was all these small knick-knack things of places that they had been and parties that they had thrown. And the fun part, especially about that last song, My Love from the Road, my brother lives in that house that my father grew up in. So my grandfather and his wife, my grandmother, built it in 1960. And when he passed, my brother and his wife moved in. My brother had a son, Nathan, and his first birthday was in the same room my father's first birthday was in. So my nostalgia for that stuff is huge. It's just, some of that, it's like stuff you read in a book and you don't get to see it anymore. And I always press my brother. I'm like, don't throw that out. Not that I want to hoard it, but just don't throw it out, because it means something. And I think he's getting that a little more as he gets older. He's the one that's now taking all the old family photos and film, 35 millimeter, and just saying, I'll put it on a computer so we can have it. And I'm thankful for it, because there's so many memories that we have from kids that I was younger than him, that now there's the video representation of. Whether that's good or not, that I have that documentation of things that I did as a child, we now have it, so I can at least see it. And I know my dad's grateful. So is my mother. But because he was an only child, he didn't have a lot to beam off of somebody else. So for him to have all that stuff that me and my brother kind of hold dear is really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it's a blessing to have somebody in the family who wants to hold on to that stuff and wants to.
I'm more of the physical
document.
Artifact holder. I have a bunch of old smoking pipes that are my grandfather's and his father's from Poland. And I just have them. When we found them in the house, and I just kept them and held on to them. But my brother likes to be the more media driven. I just want to see the visual. I want to remember these birthdays and have all this stuff, so when we're older, we can look back and then pass it on as a digital file, and not have it be lost in some bag in a basement, that never gets seen again after 20 years.
Well, it's funny me hearing you talk about your grandparents' collection of salt shakers and stuff. I was wondering if your dad's a collector too. It's a little more expensive to collect Civil War memorabilia than salt shakers.
He is a collector of coins. I think he said he started doing stamps when he was a kid. And then he has been a coin collector. We call it our gold mine. We call it my nephew's college fund. Because me and my brother have no idea what to do with it. And he goes, just please don't sell this stuff. And we're like, no, it's yours. Well, what are we going to do with it? And he goes, this is going to get Nathan through college. And we're like, okay, sure. But he was a collector like his mother. My grandmother would collect everything. She had a notebook from when they crossed country. I found this out as I got older. She had a notebook of every cent that they spent. Every dollar, Every 5 cents, if they stopped and got gas at this place in Arizona, she notated it. She had to buy a loaf of bread in this hotel, she notated it. So there's all this documentation of their travels throughout the country. And for the most part, other than my dad and my grandmother and grandfather on his side, none of my family really left to go anywhere. You know, my mother, we would go to Florida as kids. That was our big trip, right? We would drive. But none of my family, my brother maybe 1 or 2 trips for something for school, but nobody else in my family had went west, further than Pennsylvania, maybe further than Philadelphia, which I always thought was wild. And I was like, there's so much to see. And by the time I was 25, I'd already been to Montana, been to California a handful of times. I had seen deserts and I had seen all these things that I would, my dad would be on Google Maps trying to find out where I was. And I'll never forget, and I feel like I'm long-winded in this story, but there was a road I was on in Arizona, and I was going towards a mountain that looked like it was made out of pebbles. And my dad called, and he said, "What road are you on?" And I told him I couldn't remember what it was now. And we had just passed this little lighthouse made out of pebbles. It looked like a lighthouse. And he goes, "Are you passing this mountain that kind of looks like small rocks?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Is there like a little lighthouse at the top of that mountain?"
Come on.
I said, "Dad, we passed that a mile ago." He goes, "I remember that from when I was 12. I said, "There's no way you remember this." So to see the things that, like, for me, traveling has always been this weird connection to me and my grandfather that we never got to talk about. When I was on these highways going through the country, I was like, my dad's been here, my grandfather's been here, my grandmother's been here. Now it's my turn. And eventually I'll get to pass on that traveling. But it was really cool to hear him remember something from probably 1972 that he's like, "Hey, I remember that spot. I know exactly where you are." And it hasn't changed since then. We're a big family on nostalgia, I think, without us even knowing it. Maybe I'm the one that needs to teach them that we are, but we're a big family of nostalgia, I think, without trying.
Well, with this as a foundation, we'll get back to you playing some more, and then we'll when we talk in a little while, we'll talk about your life as a songwriter and a musician, which I'm looking forward to.
The good part.
Hey, welcome back, Matt Koziol on
Thank
Red
you.
Barn Radio.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Did I not have it on before? Yeah, last one. Oh, bummer. I'm sorry. The song's called Work All Day. I had a daydream walking through a field. And all I can think of lately is finding something that's real. So work all day and I pray, and work all day and I pray, and I pray, and work all day, thinking back on a young boy, world in his hands. Yeah. Now they cracked and broke like the soul of a man. Work all day and I pray. Work all day and I pray, and I pray. Work all day. There ain't no reason to doubt it. Maybe it's time just to turn around and walk away. And I pray, and work all day. And I pray, and I pray. Work all day. Well, I loved a woman, my heart and joy. She left this earth, but but she gave me a sweet baby boy. So work all day and I pray, and work all day and I pray, and I pray, and work all day. There ain't no reason to doubt it. Maybe it's time just to turn around and walk away. No easy way to feel right about it. But either way, I got a long way to go with the sun on my back and $1 in my pocket. One of these days I should turn around and walk away. And I pray, work all day, and I pray, and I pray, and work all day. And I pray, and I pray, and I work all day. And I pray, and I pray, and work all day. Yeah. Work all day. Yeah, work all day. And I pray, and I pray, and I work all day. Thank you. This next song I wrote my buddy Wes Harley, who's a diehard Texan. We met, maybe 4 years ago, something like that. It was a random writing session in Nashville, which I feel like a lot of them are like really awkward first dates. You know, it's like the sit by the coffee, see what happens, and Wes and I had just both had kind of not so recently had a similar breakup scenario where we were with two people who we were not meant to be with, and we were talking about how we never got to be upset about it. And he had this title called Slow Burn, and he's like, I don't know really what it means. And we started talking about our relationships and how we never got to be angry. We just had to say sorry a ton. And once we kind of came to that conclusion that we both felt the same way, we started writing this song. So this song's called Slow Burn. Staring at this old front seat, there's a picture there of you next to me. Man, I burned that stuff and left it in the street. That's how I used to be. I bought cigarettes 'cause you hate it when I smoke. It was a nicotine that held me by the throat. Took my first free breath as you drove on down the road. That's how this story goes. We're on wildfire, dancing on a live wire, trying to fan flames instead of getting cold. Spent a long time loving from the wrong side, picking up the pieces you were never meant to hold. It's a slow burn, letting go. These were excuses that you bled, and the bar was so much better than our bed. I did my time and now I'm on parole. You don't need to know. We're on wildfire, dancing on a live wire, trying to fan the flames instead of getting cold. Spent a long time loving from the wrong side, picking up the pieces slow burn letting go. Thank you. I'm genuinely a happy person, you know. But it was nice to be angry for once, I guess. What's funny is you don't ever know if the people who you write some of these old songs about ever hear it, and you wonder what they think if they did. And that one, I just didn't care. I was like, let her hear it. You know, let her hear that I said that too. It doesn't matter. It's that was one I needed, I guess, to get over the hump of just not letting it bother me anymore. So I'm very grateful for Wes for that. This next song is, it'll be better if I tune. There we go. This is a song I wrote called The Weight of It All with my buddy Logan Wall, who Logan is, to me, in Nashville, probably one of the best songwriters that we have in the younger songwriting community. He is so good and so talented, and he knows how to, you know, for a person who likes to talk and get stuff out of people, Logan knows how to do that even better than I do, and I'm always grateful for him. But we wrote the song called The Weight of It All. We were talking about Tom Petty and his style of writing, and he was, I think at the time he was moving into a new relationship, and we were just kind of talking about, you know, can the people who move into the next chapter of our lives handle the things that we've either carried with us or the things that we're about to carry. And we wrote the song called The Weight of It All. So, yeah. Are you sure you're ready for it? 'Cause right now the rain ain't pouring, but one day that roof is bound to spring a leak, and the bills are gonna pile up, and the wheels will stop on that old truck, 'cause they don't make those engines run forever. I don't take their word too lightly. I don't let it go to waste. Right now it seems easy, but I promise you it ain't. Under the weight of it all, everything feels heavy. Will you keep on hanging on? Wonder if you're ready for the worst case. You still love me, babe, under the weight of it all. Now remember what you're telling me, when there's more than just a mouth to feed, when this house for two turns into room for three. And I'm only asking you because I only want to do this once, 'cause losing you would end up killing me. Under the weight of it all, everything feels heavy. Will you keep on hanging on? Wonder if you're ready for the worst case. You still love me, babe, under the weight of it all. Under the weight of it all. When the going gets tough, they say the tough get gone. And I need to know right now, can you love me broken? Under the weight of it all, everything feels heavy. Will you keep on hanging on. Wonder if you're ready for the worst case. You still love me, babe, under the weight of it all. Under the weight of it all. Under the weight of it all. Under the weight of it all.
Well, we've got lots more music and conversation with Matt Koziol, but I'd like to take a minute to remind listeners that Red Barn live streams, both tonight's and on any Wednesday, remain available online for you to view at your convenience. Our live video stream is available on the weku.org website, as is our audio stream, compliments of wgad.net in central New York. Don't miss a single episode of our program, and be sure to tell your friends what it is that you like about Red Barn Radio. Our guest next week is the Bedford Band. Bedford Band released their first album in 2018, followed by another in 2019, and instead of shutting down like the rest of the world in 2021, the band released its first self-titled album, Bedford. Fully embracing their Eastern Kentucky roots, Bedford are four talented and enthusiastic guys ready to ride the crazy rock and roll train to the top of the mountain. Their 70s influences are palpable. Think Humble Pie, Free, and the most obvious of all, brothers Greg and Dwayne Skydog Allman. We're talking rock and roll heaven, folks. That's Colby Swiney, Tristan Frazier, Trevor St. John, and Sam May, the Bedford Band, next week on Red Barn Radio. Don't miss this great opportunity to rock your house next Wednesday night. Red Barn Radio, listen to the live. Let's get back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program now. We welcome you live on our social media platforms, broadcasting from the Arts Place Performance Hall here in the grand city of Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome back, please, Matt Koziol.
The song's called You Better Run, Son. Josh in the backseat, foot to the floor, toe in the county line. And that corn makes the right kind of clear, and you ain't far behind. You hit the ditch and sun up, well, they ain't taking you alive. You better run, you better run, you better run, son. Oh, you better run. You better run, you better run, you better run now. Oh, you better run. You can blame it on the lightning, you can blame it on the sun. Just get going now, 'cause Lord, you better run. She skipped the pew for backseat view, showing a Sunday best. And a knock on the door when the church rang out, stood there a preaching man. Said, son, you ready to see the light? With a shotgun on your back, you better run, you better run, you better run, son. Oh, you better run. You better run, you better run, you better run now. Oh, you better run. Blame it on the big man, you can blame it on the gun. Just get on now, 'cause Lord, you better run. Down to the dead stood my flesh and blood. Scared to death, white in the face, Lord, but if I come, I said, take my keys and take my money. I won't tell them what you've done. You better run, you better run, you better run, son. Lord, you better run. You better run, you better run, you better run now, Lord, you better run. Blame it on the living, you can blame it on the blood. Just get gone now, 'cause Lord, you better run. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I wrote that with my buddy Brandon Moore. He's actually from south of here, Kentucky guy, and that was one we did on Zoom. I think it was just he was cooking dinner and didn't want to leave his house, and I was cooking dinner and didn't want to leave my house, so we just kind of wrote that together. And he's part of a great band, and he's an incredible songwriter. We actually met working together at Apple. I was one of those guys that fix your phones. It was a real wild job. No, I can't even say I was a genius. I was just a technician that, like, you know, you dropped your phone in the toilet because you were drinking too much. I was the guy that got to hold it. That was
Lovely.
It was a real good time. I don't miss that job at all, you know. But I did meet Brandon there, and we became good friends. Not that there's a good segue from, you know, potty phones to this song, but I'll give it a shot. This song I wrote with my buddy Steve Mokler. This is the last song we wrote together right before we had to go into quarantine. And actually, I just saw Steve maybe about a week ago. And I was like, man, I haven't seen you in a while. And he was like, when was the last time we saw each other? I said, in this room, March 2020. And he goes, wow. And this song has been one of my favorites to play live, just because it's the one time I just get to play a guitar and not have, like, if I'm playing with a band, it's the one time I tell everybody to leave, and I get to sing this one. But the story behind this, we call it Hired Gun because in town, I feel like a lot of places where music's pretty prevalent, you have this phrase called hired gun that is sometimes has a bad connotation to it. It's, you know, you're hired to do one job and then you don't know if you'll ever get called back. And that's kind of what some people do with musicians in Nashville is you're hired for a gig and then, you know, on to the next one. And we were like, man, what if we wrote a song that took that phrase and turned it on its ear to not be about, or to kind of talk about love and the things of that nature, but, you know, not have it be as destructive. Like you want to be good to the person that you're around, and you don't want them to be a hired gun. You want them to be around for a while. So, yeah, we wrote this one. I'm proud of this one. Well, I've chased my share of tumbleweeds. Well, gone wherever the job took me. Yeah, I'm sure you know the kind, but that ain't who you're talking to tonight. Well, I've rolled that stone, I turned that page. Well, I guess sometimes it comes with age. Where I'm coming from and where I'm heading to. I've been looking for someone like you. Well, I'm playing for keeps, I'm betting on love. I ain't just some cowboy on the run. I wanna ride with you into the setting sun. I'm gonna treat your heart like a hired gun. Gonna take my time, gonna get it right. I got your back, I ain't scared to fight. Be hard pressed to find a man that can love you like I know I can. Well, I'm playing for keeps, I'm betting on love. I ain't just some cowboy on the run. Wanna ride with you into the setting sun. Ain't gonna treat your heart like a hired gun. Your smile puts my mind at ease. Your eyes bring me to my knees. Never had a place to hang my hat, but you made me believe in that. Well, I'm playing for keeps, I'm betting on love. I ain't just some cowboy on the run. Wanna ride with you into the setting sun. Ain't gonna treat your heart like a hired gun.
Thank you. Thanks. That one, it's always fun to kind of just, I've had some really cool opportunities in the last year to get on stage in front of a good amount of people who are there to see a show. And sometimes to remind myself why it is just picking up a guitar and singing is cool. And that's usually one of those moments. I don't always sing it for people. I usually sing that one for me. And it's because I love singing it, and I love that moment in music where you can make people stop. And I think that's sometimes for me, at most shows where I get to, you know, you hear the beer bottles and you hear people yelling and you hear people just being loud, and it's the one moment where I get to shut everybody up. And whether it's just me being loud or it's just the subject matter, people get it. And sometimes it doesn't work. You know, people are just too busy doing something else or, you know, not listening, which is fine. But every once in a while, you'll get that room that I could hear pin drop right at the first chorus, and I go, you get it. And it's that moment where I really get to go, man, that's why I like to do this. So I'm going to do a cover, I guess. I have this really great cheat sheet down here. No one else sees it, but I've got a solid, just because I was like, don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up. As I say that, I should knock on wood, right?
In the twilight glow I see blue eyes crying in the rain. And when we kiss goodbye and part, I knew we'd never meet again. Love is like a dying ember, and only memories remain. through the ages I'll remember. Blue eyes crying in the rain. Love is like a dying ember, and only memories remain. And through the ages I'll remember. Blue eyes crying in the rain. Blue eyes crying in the rain.
All right.
Thank you. I think that was the one I was most nervous about screwing up. So you don't come back from screwing up that song, you know.
Willie'd love that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, he did a nice job.
He's been one of those repeat offenders on my playlists in the last probably couple of years, where I've always known about his music and loved his music, but there was something that really clicked, I guess, in the last year that I went, man, I need to listen to more of this. And when I did, I went, oh, this is why, you know.
Oh, and that album in particular, that Redheaded Stranger.
Well, I live in the town, or I think in the town next to when he lived in Nashville. Somebody had told me the story about when his house burned down in Nashville. And it was actually in a town called Ridgetop, which is the town next to mine. I live in this little town called Millersville. And I remember I was driving through it, and I called my buddy, my producer of my record, and I said, man, this little town Ridgetop's beautiful. And he goes, don't move there. I said, why? And he goes, you're going to move back to New Jersey. And I said, why would I move back to New Jersey after this? And he goes, you don't know the story about Willie Nelson's house. And then I read about it, and I went, oh, okay, that's why he doesn't want me to move to Ridgetop. He's afraid my house will burn down, and I'll move back to New Jersey. So I said, I promise you the one thing that won't happen is that. So, but his just his ability to say things and in the simplest way and make me believe it even more than I heard it the day before, just really, that always gets me. And that song in particular, it's just, there's not anything too delicate or hard about those lyrics. It's just, it's like if you took meat and potatoes and put it into songs, he did it really well. You know? So, yeah.
Well, I really want to talk about your songwriting and your writing collaborations. I thought first, though, if you wouldn't mind just doing a little sprint through your history of performing and playing, and growing up as a guy out there playing. And if I interrupt you, it's only because I really want to get to the songwriting part.
Like how far back do you want to go?
I don't know. Let's go back to when you started playing out with a band. How old were you?
First time I ever played with a band, I was in junior high school. We had this really bad band called Good Times, and our logo was a thumbs down. You know, it was really awful. We thought we were cool, and then the age of 4, that was around 12. I was getting into high school, and I had learned how to play guitar. And when I was 14, I had a music teacher named Mrs. Lorenzetti. That's her name now. And she was like, hey, you're pretty good at this. There's a thing at this local coffee shop called Van Gogh's Ear, which is run by this wonderful woman named Sarah. And she's like, there's this open mic, you should go do it. I said, okay. I was 14 years old. I didn't really know what to think of it. And at the time, it was a woman named Kathy who ran the cafe, and Sarah, who now owns it, her and her brother were employees there at 17 years old. So they're a little older than me, and Sarah, to this day, will tell you, she's like, I remember the first time you came in and you sang at the coffee shop, and we all just went, okay, when's he coming back? And she was like, you were 14. So I played this open mic, and that was the thing that made me go, oh, I like this. I like what a guitar and a voice does to people. And I remember my first paying gig was like 2 weeks after that at that coffee shop. They were like, cool, you played 3 songs. Play us an hour's worth of music. I was like, I'm 14. I don't have 10 minutes worth of music. So I went and I played covers that I could conjure up. Beatles, James Taylor, Led Zeppelin, John Mayer, anything that I could think of at the time that I was like, oh, this would be cool. So that was 14, and then as I got older, I got into a band in high school with some friends, and then probably around 17, 18, I'd always played out by myself, but we were in high school, we wanted to be in a band because that was a cool thing to do. Sure. And then I realized, I was like, no, I'm going to go write songs. I'm going to continue writing songs for me and just go and play them. So 17 to as you look at me now, it's been, I haven't really stopped, you know. There was a brief period of time where I just wanted to be a writer, because I had tried playing in my early 20s to be like a artist, and it was different. Everybody wanted you to be something, and I didn't really know who I was at the time. So like through my 20s, I would play a lot in Los Angeles. I would tour. I would go to Massachusetts. I would go to, I would play the Northeast. I would go to Chicago. I'd pack up in a truck and go to Nashville. And
by yourself?
Sometimes by myself, a lot of times by myself, and sometimes with different band members. There was one consistent bar I'd play at, which is kind of how I made my money to do all my traveling. It was this bar called Butch Cole's, and I still go there when I go home. It's the same bar, same
in Linden?
People. It's in a town called Rahway, which is right next door. And I know the owner well. I know all the people that go there. I know the bartenders still. And they all remember me playing at that bar every Thursday night in a blues trio, playing B.B. King covers or playing my songs and, you know, figuring out how to drink a little too much and play a little too loud, you know. And they watched me do that for years, and that's kind of how I made money. And then I would go and do these tours where I'd find these little venues in towns, whether it be Chicago or Nashville, or then I would go to Los Angeles and start playing there and writing for the first time with other people. And that was around like 21. So when I moved to Nashville, I was 27. I'm 34 now. And I'd already had this 7+ years of traveling under my belt, trying to be an artist, and it just didn't click where I wanted it to. And I always said it was, you know, I was living in New Jersey. I think Bruce Springsteen says it best. It's like you're living in no man's land. You got to get out. And but it's as much as I love the state, I knew there was a place that I needed to go that would let me do what I wanted to do. And Nashville was always it. I'd always traveled through, and I saw what people were doing there, and I said, this looks right. And it was different than Nashville now. You know, Nashville's grown so much, but at that time, it was like this was the one place that I could look at it as a real job. And so when I left at 27, I moved there, and I just said I wanted to be a writer. I didn't want to be an artist because, you know, I'd tried, and I kind of just said, I want to have a guitar in my hand for work every day, but I don't know if, you know, being back out on the road or having that stress of trying to be an artist is in me anymore. And I had a good couple of years where that's all I did. I just wrote, and I played for artists. My friend Bree, who you mentioned earlier, and I played on different records for other friends who were signed, and I had always loved it because I didn't have to be in the forefront. I didn't have to be the guy singing. And every once in a while, I would like surprise people and be like, "Hey, I'm going to play a show," and people would show up and be like, "Why don't you do this all the time?" And I said, "Well, when the time's right." I said, "I'll wait my turn." And I remember saying that to somebody. I said, I'll wait my turn when it's my turn again. And what was it, maybe a year and a half ago, I had done a record with my buddy Matt Koziol, who's my producer. He was part of a band called Jars of Clay. And we had just met through our publishing companies. And we did this record kind of just for fun. No thought behind it. And it got into hands of people who really believed in it. And I said, oh, no, what did I do? You know? So now it's, and as soon as I started playing out in front of people and singing again, I remembered why I did it in the first place. I remembered why I loved that coffee shop at 14, or why I loved Butch Cole's at 21, where I would just go, you know, drink bourbon and sing for people. It kind of, it made me, enough time away gave me the right sense to go like, you should probably do this again. So that's, I mean, from 14 till now.
Yeah.
I really haven't thought of anything else because I'm not really good at anything else. You know, I thought I was. I'm like decent at a few things. My grandmother thinks I'm a mechanic because I like changed a part of my truck. I was like, no, I'm not good at that either. I had to watch YouTube 30 times to get that part right. I said, but the only thing I've ever really known that I'm good at is, you know, slamming on a guitar and yelling at people for 20 minutes.
Fixing potty phones.
Fixing phones that fall in toilets is also something.
I mean, that's something else.
Apparently, I was good enough until I got fired. So, you know, I was just decent enough at it to not get fired for a while.
All right. So on the songwriting front, I guess I'm wondering, if you're a songwriter, do you need to have, do you think, a kind of voice like you have to carry the message of the song that you write?
You know what's funny is, and I've had other friends have this problem. Most people think that having this big voice to carry the song is usually what gets people to want to sing your songs. And I've found that it became more of a detriment than it became an asset for me. And I've had other friends have this problem too, where they're great singers and they're very talented, and their voices would be on these demos, and people would hear the demos and go, I don't want to sing that. They sound great singing that. And I heard that more often than most, where people are like, well, you sound great singing this song. You should put it out. I said, but I'm not an artist. I'm just a writer. And my publisher currently, a good friend Katie, looked at me one day and she said, sure, you're just a writer. And I was like, no, really, this is just kind of what I want to do I want to live pretty simple. I want to live quiet and just write songs out of finding things out about people. Because I really have that love too, of finding stories like my dad and making friends with a new stranger every day. And I heard it enough that people went, you should probably put this out, that I started to go, okay, listen to what people are saying. Stop fighting it and just do it. And I mean, the people that heard it, that have been part of, you know, getting me back to doing this they are the greatest people I could ask for to work with, especially at 34, not knowing if I would do this again. You know, you figure what? I talked to a friend of mine on the phone the other day, and I said, I've been playing live music for people for 20 years. And I said, that's really weird. And he goes, yeah, you're old. And I said, thanks. You know, I know I'm not old, but I was just like, you know, I looked at my hands and I was like, you've been playing strings for 20 years. You don't know what else to do. So the songwriting thing, it's tough. It's like I always wanted people to sing my songs, but they always told me it was better. Not that the better demos were me singing them, but they were just like, you convey this the right way. You should just sing it. And that was always the hardest part about trying to have someone else sing the song is, so that eventually I was like, hey, somebody else sing it. You know, I'd be in a room and I'd be like, somebody else sing the song. And they'd go, no, you sing it because we love your voice. And I said, but we need to make money and we need to get this song cut. So please, someone else sing the song.
But it seems to me that the majority of the songs you've been singing tonight, you've referenced as collaborations, as songs that you've written with someone else, not just songs you've written on your own.
There've been My Love from the Road was one I wrote on my own. I'm trying to think. Not Slow Burn. Runs in the Family, High Gun, no. Before We Break It, Leave House. There's a song coming up called House to Build a Home I wrote on my own. And it's funny, it's like I wrote so many years and so many songs that I still have deep in the vault that, you know, even my label hasn't heard yet. And some of them I won't let anybody hear. There's maybe one person who's heard them, and I say, don't share that link with anybody. And then we're going through songs for this new record, and they were like, do you have songs written? I said, I've got a folder of about 40, 50 songs, and I've got like 3 more I need to add to it. And they go, where did all these come from? I said, well, I would go into these writing sessions kind of hoping that we would write something that would be for somebody else, and then if I really liked it, I would just kind of stay quiet about it, and I go, I'll just put that in my pocket, and I'll wait. Or if you heard me cut a demo of it intentionally without anybody asking, it's because I really liked it. which was a lot of these songs. Last of the Old Dogs, we wrote, like I said, my buddy Steve and this guy Andy, and I looked at them immediately. I was like, I can't have anybody else sing that song because it means too much, and the lyrics are too personal. There's some of them, like the one I sang called "You Better Run," that's just fun. It's a nonsense song about something I don't know much about. It wasn't a nonfiction story. It was just.
Was this the one you wrote with the guy while you guys were cooking dinner?
While we were cooking dinner,
right.
yeah. He and we kind of wanted to write this like mountain bluegrass song about nonsense, about some runaway, and now his child is the same as who he is. Neither of us had experienced that, but we're like, sometimes you hear some older bluegrass music and you're like, there's no way this person lived that. That's just a story that maybe they heard and they wrote a song about it. And I said, well, let's do that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the songs on the new record are ones that I've just written by myself. And
right. So Matt, listen, I am not calling you to task on your set list here. Like where are the ones you wrote all by yourself? I think I'm just, it seems to me like you really dig the collaboration process, and it was great hearing you talk about that earlier. When you were talking about getting together with that other songwriting friend and talking about your relationships and how you had never really been in the situation where you could communicate anything but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where you talk about and another song that you wrote, I can't remember which one it was. Maybe the weight of it all. When you were talking about getting together with somebody and talking about that, like I wonder if in a new relationship somebody could bear what it is that I'm bringing to it, and that seems like really a cathartic process.
Well, the fun part, and I think what we always forget, and I had this conversation earlier today that sometimes the quantity of music that comes out doesn't always outweigh the quality, and the best part about music for me is whether I'm sitting as a listener and somebody who's just a fan, or I'm the person who's either helping writing or writing it by myself, is that there's always this safety in numbers, right? There's the idea that everything I have felt my own version of, but everybody has been through, so there's been somebody else who's felt this before me, and there will be somebody after me who feels this. And when I meet someone who at the same time has had the same story and the same feeling, it might not be the same situation, but we both have that same feeling, that guttural feeling of like, hey, I'm a little angry, or hey, I'm nervous that I'm getting into this thing and I don't know if they can handle it, and I hope that they can. And you get to share that time 4 or 5 hours with somebody and realize that you are not the only person who feels that day. It's the greatest safety in numbers to have a song that you can go, yeah, I'm not alone. And it makes it easier to sing. It makes it easier for me to sing a song that I know I'm instantly not the only person. And even if it's a song I've written, My Love from the Road, I'm not the only uncle out there. I'm not the only person who moved away from home. But I knew the first time I sang it live and someone came up to me and said, hey, I've been traveling my entire life for work, and I've watched my nephews and nieces grow up, and I have never had a way to say that before. Thank you. And it made me realize that whether I'm writing it alone or writing with somebody, having that instant safety in numbers, it makes me wake up the next day and go, I'm going to do it again, because I have something else that I've felt that I know somebody else has felt, and they haven't heard it that way. And that's what I always loved about songs that moved me as a kid. It was just the instant feeling of, man, somebody understood me before I understood myself. John Mayer had a weird way of doing that. He would have a song that I would listen to, and I go, how did he know how I was feeling today? And he wrote this song 3 years ago. And I found that to be magic. I learned that later in life with James Taylor. I learned that later in life with Jackson Browne, but I also learned it with Nickel Creek as a bluegrass band. I heard Doubting Thomas for the first time, and I said, how did they figure it out? How did that one phrase I've never been able to say show up on my CD player or show up on my MP3 player? Dating myself now, right? But I just didn't understand how somebody had figured it out before me, but then I realized, they've felt this before. This feeling, this thing I'm going through, it's not the same person, same situation, but that feeling, that guttural feeling of hurt, anger, love, whatever expression it is, somebody else has had it. And now I'm having it, and there's somebody to tell me how to go through it. How do I get to do that now? That was always my favorite part of writing songs.
Well, it seems like you have that sort of outlook to help you be the best songwriter you can be. You know, you're game to learn from other people, to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's great. You play a wonderful guitar. You got a beautiful voice, and you got a ton to say. And yeah, you're a special person.
Sometimes I hope I do.
No, it's been just great. Great that you come and be with us. We really enjoyed your music, and I'm glad it's not over. We got some more songs to play now.
Yeah, I'll tune it, and then I'll get to it.
All right, let's get back to some more music with Matt Koziol.
Yeah. Thank you for that lovely applause in this room. This is a song called Before We Break It, and this is on my record, and this song was a little bit of foreshadowing before my relationship had ended. We kind of realized that it wasn't supposed to be, and I wrote a song maybe about a year before it ended, talking about that. So. It's called Before We Break It. Lucky striking a bottle of wine. In this house built, we've drawn a line. When your mama calls, you say we're fine. But I made my bed on the couch tonight. And ooh, stay together for the pictures, Friday nights, and your grandma's congregation. But we've been hanging on to what's already gone. This news is gonna wreck this town. We're the ones who're supposed to make it. I think that you should leave before we break it. They ask me if you're coming out, why they haven't seen you out. Tell them work has worn you down. Well, they hear the lies that leaves my mouth. We've been hanging on what's already gone. This news is gonna wreck this town. We're the ones who're supposed to make it. I think that you should leave before we break it. Ooh, stay together for the pictures, Friday nights, in your grandma's congregation. So go ahead and be with him if you think you're better off. 'Cause we've been hanging on to what's already gone. This news is gonna wreck this town. We're the ones who're supposed to make it. I think that you should leave before we break it. I think that you should leave before we break it. Thank you. For the lovely applause in the room. Thank you again. The next song's also on my record, Wild Horse. It's called Leave a Little of Your Heart. And it's funny. It's like this was one of those when we recorded it. I was like, this song's cool. I'd always loved the demo of it, and we recorded it, and I didn't connect with it soon. This was one that took me a little bit to really love. But it's about having that safe space for somebody, I guess, who's supposed to be in your life later. And saying, the phrase, this sounds silly, but like that old Motel 6, we'll leave the light on for you. That's kind of where this came from. I know that sounds terrible. It ruins the romantic allure of this song, but that's kind of where it came from. It's just the idea that there might be someone who's right for you, just not for right now, and you can leave a space for them. And if they decide to show up into it, great. And if not, that's okay. It's called Leave a Little of Your Heart. Oh, there it is. Sorry. When it feels good, don't it make you cry? No more questions when the timing's right. And then I'll say those 3 words and I'll try not to hesitate. Leave a little of your heart with me, and the door just like a second key. I'll make sure the light stays on, even when I fall apart. Leave a little of your heart. You've been quiet. What's going through your head? Well, I'm on the couch while you sleep in bed, and I know you've made mistakes. Well, trusting those that don't look you in the eye. I'm not that guy. Leave a little of your heart with me, and the door just like a second key. I'll make sure the light stays on, even when I fall apart. Leave a little of your heart with me, and I'll hold it till you call on me. And if you ever change your mind, keep a peace of mind. Leave a little of your heart. Good, don't it make you cry? No more questions when the timing's right. You lift a little of your heart with me, in the door just like a second key. And I make sure the light stays on, even when I fall apart. Leave a little of your heart with me, and I'll hold it till you call on me. And if you ever change your mind, you can
keep a peace of mind. Leave a little of your heart. Thank you. I've got a song's called House to Build a Home. And I wrote this. I know I've gone on this like roller coaster of relationship, non-relationship, hating relationship, loving being lonely, also no relationship. But this was one when I thought that the relationship I was in was the one I was supposed to stay in. And it's probably the oldest song I've got on this fun list. I wrote it at a countertop in Los Angeles over coffee and eggs. I don't know why, but that was just the right time to write it, I guess. But it's called House to Build a Home. I've got demons, and I got dreams to take away the night, and I've got troubles, leaving those I couldn't fight. It takes my heart out, be the last man left in sight, before I lose it, before I get into the light. So this time you've been here, all this time, see me at my best. Call me in the morning, Lord, and tell me you love me best. Well, I don't know about the rest of my life, all I want is something old. Want a love like yours and a child of ours, a house to build a home. Though I'm trying, yes, you've seen me try my very best to follow footsteps, ones my father never guessed. Oh, and it takes my heart out, hear you crying on the line. Oh, little girl, don't you worry your heart, 'cause one day I'm gonna make you mine. All this time you've been here, all this time you see me at my best. Call me in the morning, Lord, and tell me you love me best. I don't know about the rest of my life, all I want is something old. Want a love like yours and a child of ours, a house to build a home. Sometimes we might drive off the road, grab the wheel and hold on, babe. There's something I was told, that all you need for the rest of your life is what you find and what you hold. That's a love like hers and a child of God, and a house to build a home.
Well, there are so many people to thank for our program. First, Matt Koziol, our guest on tonight's program. We're ever grateful for our volunteers and staff who make our production happen so beautifully each week. We want to thank all of you for listening to our webcast, watching us on social media, and those listening to us on the network of Red Barn stations and media worldwide. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn's premier radio partner, Central and Eastern Kentucky's radio news leader. You can listen online at weku.org. It's your chance to hear more great live music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Those of you here in the Central Kentucky area, you got to be sure to check out Red Barn TV. It's our weekly program of music, now on ABC 36 WTVQ. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our guests and our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. Now, before we close out tonight's program, I hope we can get Matt to come back and do one more for us.
I'd love to.
All right, Matt Koziol.
I'm going to yell at you for a minute. This is a song called Follow Me Home. But thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this so much.
Thank you.
You showed up on a Friday, never left my side. Follow me to church on Sunday. Woman, won't you take your time? Well, it's a hard time telling a pretty woman to go, but when she lays her lips on me, I try to tell her no, and oh, my, feel you follow me home, yeah, yeah. And oh, my, that's the reason you're alone. So the eyes of a woman, they're a curious thing, yeah. When you look a little closer, you will see she's cold and mean, and oh, my, feel you follow me home, yeah, yeah. Oh, my, that's the reason you're alone. Just like my mother said, better spend some time, yeah, yeah, before you let a stranger in your bed. No, my, will you follow me out? No, my, that's the reason you're alone. That's the reason you're alone.
Matt Koziol. Well, that's all for our show for this week, folks. You can see and hear Red Barn Radio worldwide, though, as we stream live on the web, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. You can also listen to archived performances on Patreon, Spotify, and iTunes. And remember this, every like, comment, share, and subscribe helps to bring roots music Southern style to your neck of the woods. And finally this, if any of our featured artists are performing in your area, you got to get out and hear them live. They need you now more than ever. From all of us here at Red Barn Radio now to all of our friends worldwide, keep working together to be safe and healthy. And until next time, good night from Red Barn Radio.